So if we parcel this up into 2 episodes, we'll need to like just sort of cheekily do 2 intros. Anyway, for one of the cold opens, I know they're not supposed to be scripted, but I don't care. I'm going to have a cold can of lager and I'm going to crack it and go, there's your cold open. Intro theme. Hello and welcome to Pub Goth Transmission, a podcast. And I'm going to regale you with the tales of my journey to the land of the rising sun, Japan, and a tiny bit of China because I was there in a layover very briefly on the way back. And I have a couple of funny stories from my very brief evening in China.
We should probably talk about, as I like to call them, the Anglos of the East. Another island archipelago nation, which has a nearby nation divided into North and South, where they continuously genocided. Let's talk about the Japan.
Right, yes.
The Japan, the Japan. Yeah, Japan. Let's talk about Japan.
Japan, the land of the rising sun, as they call it, or as I like to call it, the land of unnecessary packaging that you didn't ask for and nowhere to throw it away. So the reason I went to Japan, it's the second time I've been. I went back in 2018 in December because my band, Dygora, I would plug our tour that's literally starting tomorrow, but this episode's probably going to go live after it's ended.
Yeah. Let's plug the listening party happening in 5 minutes.
Yes, literally. It'll be out now. Check out our new EP, Southside Tapes. Go on Dygora.com or Spotify and type in Dygora or YouTube. If you're already on YouTube, you know, maybe pause this, open up a tab, maybe wait till it's over, type in Dygora. We should have a new music video hidden in plain sight coming out. And it was filmed in Japan. I'm going to talk about that right now. So we filmed that video in Tokyo. So yeah, we were basically invited to play a death metal festival called Gekiko Fest in Tokyo, venue called Wildside. It's the same venue we'd played in 2018. Basically, it's kind of a long story, but there's this band that we're friends with called Kandarivas, Japanese grindcore band who mix. They're fucking awesome. They mix kind of traditional Japanese culture and taiko drumming in with grindcore. And they're sort of guitarist and the main guy Tomoki. He's a really nice guy. So we've known him since 2018. He's a cardiothoracic surgeon. He invited us to play there in 2018. We played there, and then we invited Kandarivas to play with us in the UK. We took them to all the best parts of the UK: London, Ipswich, Glasgow, and Bristol, and played some shows with them. And that was great. And so we were going to go out, I think, in 2020, but the pandemic delayed everything. So 2024, they invited us back to play Gekiko Fest. And originally we were going to play the pre-party on the Friday and then the Sunday, but then another band dropped out and we ended up playing every day. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And so, yeah, that was why we were there. So I flew over there with my girlfriend and a friend of ours on Air China. And I've got a good tagline for Air China. Air China, never again. Wouldn't recommend it, honestly. Other people might have other opinions. Not a fan. It was a 10.5-hour flight to Beijing. We decided it was going to go in all one slog, right? So it was an evening flight. So I thought that made sense, right? Because we have the day to like sort some stuff out, bought some stuff from the shops that we needed. 8:30 flights are in, Heathrow in the afternoon. End up faffing too much and have to run for the gate as always. Get there, and then it's like a 10.5-hour flight. I slept maybe 4 or 5 hours. My partner did not sleep at all, unfortunately. And then we had a 1-hour changeover at Beijing Airport, and we go through the security and stuff. And Beijing Airport is, if you haven't been there, just fucking massive. It's like the biggest warehouse you can imagine. It's just one giant building. So we keep walking to the gates. Like Gatwick, it's like, oh, it's E10, it's E11, it's E13. This is like, you get to a gate, walk really quickly for like a whole few minutes, and then the next gate would come. And I figured out what gate we were on. I was like, we're fucked. So we had to keep running after this 10.5-hour flight. We see people at the very end going like, come on through. So we like ran on, got on the flight. It was delayed for a bit anyway. And then anyway, get to Japan. So at this point, I slept a bit on that flight and a bit on the previous one, but I'm fucking tired. Our friend Arjun had like maybe slept a little bit. Scarlett had been up now at this point for 30 hours. And we basically had to go through passport control, and she was already feeling quite faint. And I've been studying Duolingo. So I thought, I know a bit of Japanese now. I've been studying on my Duolingo. I know how to ask for water. So I went up to some official and I went, Mizu kudasai? And he said, And I said, Mizu wa doko desu ka? So I've said, water, please. And I've said, where is water? And then he looked at me and responded to me and said some stuff in Japanese. And at this point, I realized the major flaw with trying to learn any language through Duolingo is they will teach you enough to ask a question, but not enough to know what the answer means. So eventually I just said, give me a water anywhere. And he said, sort of no, sorry. So we couldn't get that. Went through passport control, got all of our bags, couldn't find Scarlett's. Then see her name on a sign, talk to a Japanese lady who informs her a woman who's been awake for 30 hours through 2 flights, having to run on a connection, is very much at the end of her tether. And that was after being up for an entire day shopping. Very much the end of her tether. Unfortunately, her suitcase is still in Beijing and has not made it on the flight. So she's, as any normal human being would do, having a little mentee bee. And I decided to deal with the bureaucracy. And I speak to who was admittedly an extremely polite and helpful Japanese lady trying to get the address of the Airbnb. I had not booked the Airbnb. So I was like texting me, what's the address? Writing it all down. And then they say, okay, and how long are you here for? And I said, I'm here for this minute. They said, what's your next address? That gave me, I was like, okay, why do you need to know the next one if it's definitely coming to us the next 2 days? So they gave us about what turned out to be about 25 quid in compensation. That's 5,000 yen. And I said to them, I'm just going to come back tomorrow because I don't trust anyone. I believe if you want something done right in this world, even in Japan where they're quite efficient, you got to do it yourself. And I thought the quicker we can, because obviously she's been like, what if they've lost it? What if it's gone? The normal paranoia. I think the quicker we just get the suitcase, the quicker all the paranoia goes away. So the next morning after sort of sleeping, is we got the train back to our Airbnb in Takanada Baba, which it took me a while to get down, which is just outside sort of Shinjuku, which is in like the entertainment district of Tokyo. We went to sleep and stuff. I had to bring I had bought my suitcase's wheel broke, right? So I bought a new suitcase and I didn't check the dimensions, and it arrived and it was like this big. It was like fucking insane. So I thought, I can't actually use that. It's too big. So I'll get another one. But then because I'm lazy, I didn't. So I'll just use that one. And then people were like, have you got room in your suitcase? I had to be like, yeah. So it ended up being, so this is before, this is at Heathrow, right? I had my bass guitar and I had my suitcase, and then Scarlett had one suitcase. So we were allowed 2 pieces of check-in luggage each. So we're well short of our target. It's got to be 23 kilos per thing, right? I've got a suitcase, a bass guitar that's quite light, and Scarlett's got one suitcase. I think that doesn't matter. We're fine, right? Turns out, no, it's a per piece thing. And my suitcase weighed 32 kilograms, and they only charged me £74. They made me pay £74. I tried to argue with them. They said, if you had another bag or another suitcase, you could take stuff out of that and put it in that other one, and that would be fine. So it's like the same weight of stuff, just distributed slightly differently. The worst part was I couldn't just pay the guy. No, I just queued like an hour in the check-in queue. Now I had to go across the terminal to some other desk, pay that person £74, get a piece of paper, take it back to the desk, and then get my boarding pass. I still had to go to the oversized baggage, and so livid. Air China never again. They absolute bastards with the luggage, right? I thought, well, it adds up the right level. Most airlines are fine with if it adds up, right? My parents' suitcases always overweight. Their children's suitcases underweight. They were cool with it, right? Even EasyJet are cool with that. Even Ryanair are cool with that. But no, Air China per piece fit anyway. So yeah, so the first night we went back, we just slept. Next day, I spend the morning looking for ladies' underwear in the local shops. because obviously Scarlett doesn't have any. And I got so close. I found a bra and a Family Mart. I was like, just why? Just we're so close, but I didn't succeed. And in the afternoon, we just went back to the airport, got the suitcase, settled that problem. And I think we had like a day. The jet lag hits hard. It's like 7 hours one way, 7 hours earlier. No, 7 hours late. I don't know. Anyway, it's like the jet lag is intense. It's a real thing, right? Do you know what's not a real thing, right? So the jet lag is very real, right? Jet lag was brutal. It takes days to get over it. Do you know what's not real? Weed withdrawals. Not a thing, right? Been pretty much smoking weed like kind of every day for like the last decade. And people are saying, oh, it's really hard to sleep and you sweat. All that happens is you have dreams again. And you're like, oh, dreams, they're really weird. That was my only... Although, having said that, we played the first gig on the Friday. So I think we landed on the Wednesday, had the Thursday of just jet lagging about. Went out to some cool bars. Basically, the bars in Japan are often very small. And not just Tokyo, just very small. It's like going into someone's flat, but like even smaller. So like you'll go into like, if you want to go to the bar, you'll literally get a small lift up a apartment building, walk in, and it will be like a one room that's like the size of my living room here. And you can fit like maybe 10, 20 people in there. And like, that's what the bars are like there. So we went around a few bars. The funny thing is they have a chain there called Hub. It's kind of like their Spoons. And me and Arjun went there. And because it's supposed to be a British pub, right? We sit down at our table and this Japanese guy comes around us and says, hi guys, I don't know if you would understand this, but the way we do it here, right, is what you need to do to get a drink is you need to walk up to the bar and you order your drink at the bar. And then you pick it up and take it back to your table. And we were like, yeah, no, I think we can manage that. I think that'll be okay. And then we said we're British. He says, professionals. It's describing to us how a pub works. It's very funny. And then I looked at
table service over there.
So it's all table service. Yeah. Often it's like you sit down, like, generally it's table service and people bring you the drink. A lot of places, like they have things called izakayas, which is like a casual bar restaurant. They usually have like a tablet, so you sit there, you can just order drinks and food, and they just bring it to you.
Ironically, also like a Spoons.
Yeah. The funny thing is with the Japanese, they love to, like in this country, they use technology to not employ people, right? So the reason you use a self-checkout machine in Sainsbury's is because if you notice there's one poor bloke in there who has to like do the IDs for the people on the machines and run the till and now deal with like delivery drivers and shit at the same time. So they use technology so they don't employ people, like, hence what's happening right now with AI and class warfare. Plug there for an article that you've just written in the New International.
Yeah, New International magazine, where I'm also the editor of the UK desk.
Seamless segue and accurate plug. So check out that article. But yeah, like the thing in Japan is what I'm trying to say is they don't try and eliminate technology. They don't try and eliminate labor with technology. They just have both. They just have the technology for the purpose of it. So you go into like a small restaurant, like a ramen restaurant or something, or a curry place, and you go to a machine. You select what you want from the menu. You pay for it. It prints a ticket. It's like going, to be fair, I'm just describing what it's like to go into McDonald's. And then you give them the ticket and then they give you the food. The difference is with McDonald's, right? Or one of those places, which I obviously don't go to because BDS, right? But the difference is usually you punch it in and it automatically goes through. Here, you give them the ticket and they go, and then they start making the food. And it's like, I could have just said, can I have a ramen, please? You know what I mean? Like the whole ordering process is like, it's not made it any streamlined. They just kind of like technology for its own sake. But I was looking on my database of jazz bars in Tokyo that I'd made before going out, as one does, right? And I said to Arjun, who's also a bit of a jazz head, I said, there's a jazz bar just near here. Should we go there? And we went down to it and we walked in. And again, it's like a tiny room literally about the size of my living room, including the bar. And there's like this live band playing and we think, it's busy in here, but this is quite cool. And we try and stand by the door and they say, I'll go and sit down. There's a sea of stools, but it's like, where do I put my legs? You know what I mean? And Arjun's even taller than I am, right? So we like, he moves the time, we kind of sat down awkwardly, sort of like this. And they bring us our drinks. And then more people just keep coming in and coming in and coming in. So it's just this like room just full of people. And at this point, Arjun's basically sitting in the horn of the man's saxophone, like right here. And the guy's telling people, like, please come in. And it was quite funny because there's quite a few gaijin in there as well, just sort of looking around confused, like all crammed together in a tiny bar with like these people playing live jazz. It was really cool. But yeah, that's just how they do it. They like to pack them in. Like my joke is if a Japanese man has a cupboard, he will open a bar inside it.
It's like the trains, the guys who who are paid to like push people into the crowded trains.
Yeah. So Lorana literally had that happen in Shibuya. So I wasn't there. They went at rush hour to Shibuya, which you never want to do on a weekend. And she literally the train's full, and there's men with white gloves just pick her up and just chuck on the train. Doors close, off it goes. And it's not like London where if you put your foot in the door, it opens and it stops. In Japan, there's signs that say the train will not stop. It will not stop. Like, yeah. Fuck. There's a lot of people there.
So just the context is I was planning to go on this trip to Japan. So a friend who had connections to the Deconstruction Society at Tokyo Met University was going to invite me to give a talk. There wasn't enough money on their side, wasn't enough money on my side, just didn't happen. But one of the things I love about Japan, not only because of the fact that I wrote basically 2 and a bit books on cyberpunk, but also I'm just a big like food weeb. So like, there's a place in London called Dygora Japan, which is a Japanese chain.
Have you been to the English one?
I've been. Oh, okay. So do you go to Dygora Japan?
Not. I only found out there was one in the UK while I was in Japan because I've been a fan of Coco since I went in 2018 in Tokyo. I want to see what it's like in the UK compared to what it's like in Japan, because everywhere.
So I think Dan got me and Jez to a couple months ago, right? It is.
I love it. I want to go to the UK one.
Okay, right.
We're going to go on a trip there. I will include. No, we've all said we're going to go. So I'll include you in on.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful. No, it's beautiful. Now the problem is though, you got to wait a bit. We had to wait because it's quite busy most of the time.
Okay.
But it's like a Japanese style curry house where you're just like, okay, like, do you want your Japanese curry as a fucking potato gratin? Do you want it as like a garlic flatbread? Do you want it with omurice? Do you want it with cheese curds? Do you want it with like 4 to 5 different types of meat? It is just Japanese curry, infinitely modulated in the best way possible.
In the UK one, can you choose how many grams of rice that you have with it?
I don't think so. I think the rice is standard, but you can choose up to like 6 levels of spice and any other combination of other stuff with it.
That's fucking bollocks. In Japan, there's 20 levels of spice. 20.
Oh.
And you can select how many grams of rice you want. You can go up to a kilo of rice. And when you order a beer on it, it says, do you want the beer before your meal, with your meal, or after your meal?
Okay, we don't get it that well. Like the thing I usually go for the iced tea, which comes with a separate pot of syrup to make it sweeter.
Yes, that's in Japan. You get that. I didn't know what it was, and we had to ask. And with a lot of drinks, you get a little sachet and you peel it off, and it's just got like sugar syrup in it. I didn't know what that was.
I love Japanese curry. I particularly like it because of the omelets. It's that omelet rice, that really soft, fluffy, but still very like substantial omelet, which just goes so great with curry. I love. Okay, so see, this is the thing. I can't go to Japan, but I can give everyone the best Japanese food tour of central London, because you've got Tokyo Diner, which is so Japanese they don't even take tips, and they will just sell you like zaru udon, like udon noodles with a basic dashi sauce on a wooden fucking platter. Or you go to Sushi Eatery where it's all you can eat, but you get it in rounds. Like I can do, okay, now the ball's in Farnsworth's court. I can do a good Japanese food tour, breakfast, lunch, and fucking dinner. But how was it over there?
Yeah. So in terms of like food, me and Arjun went to the sushi place, and there's like 2 kind of types of sushi place. There's conveyor belt sushi places, which is fucking good, or there's more traditional sushi places, which are like fucking good. And I went to a conveyor belt one first, and it's amazing because you just sit there in front of an iPad, translate it, put it on English mode. You just order whatever you want, and they have the most amazing bluefin tuna one that just still I have a memory of it. You can just say it's like a core memory. You can just save that moment. That bluefin tuna was outrageous. But the cool thing was, it will literally like there's this conveyor belt, and it will just whiz over, just go, and stop in front of you, and you just take it down, and you can just eat it. And so that's really cool. And then Mark and I went to like a traditional sushi place in like Shibuya where they do it right in front of you and like give it to you, and you can get like hot sake and stuff. Sake as well. Oh. So yeah, that was some of the best food that I had in Tokyo, 100%. We also went to like a Korean barbecue type place where we got like Wagyu and you could, grill it yourself. But I don't really want to grill my own meat because I know that they're gonna know how to do it better than me. But the best food I had, talking of food in Japan, was in Hiroshima. I went to this izakaya with Scarlett, which did both a meat menu and a vegan menu, and I had the best Japanese Wagyu beef I've ever had easily. I had it rare, the little flake of roasted garlic on top, still sizzling as they brought it out. Absolutely outrageous. And they also had this beef sushi, like this raw beef sushi with a little bit of wasabi on it. Amazing. Even I ordered chicken wings there, and they were incredible. Best chicken wings ever. And Scarlett ordered like one of the things she ordered was like a vegan katsu curry, which she said was really good. She also ordered these vegan yakitori skewers. So yakitori is like usually it's meat, like chicken, and it'll be lots of different bits of the chicken, but kind of blended together in a good way. And that's kind of the thing about Japan; they eat a lot more offal than we do. Like when they're like, "Oh, it's chicken," I'm like, "Okay, cool. What part of the chicken is it?" Because sometimes it's a bit of a rogue bit of the animal. But she got this
chicken heart.
She got this vegan yakitori. Ate it, said it's amazing, and then the guy comes home and he says, "Oh, it's on like a grill thingy," and he lifts up the grill and he says, "Oh, the charcoals, they're actually potatoes, and they were these black potatoes, and I ate them and they were amazing." I was like, "These guys are genius beyond genius," That was in this Hiroshima izakaya. Another thing I ate in Hiroshima that was really good was okonomiyaki. So it's a thing they do around Japan, but Hiroshima has its own style, which is I think seen as one of the better ones. It's like an okonomiyaki pancake. They have all these like noodles, like soba noodles, and then they make this like pancake with egg, and then they top it with like meat and green onions and stuff. And then they give it to you, and they have sauce. They had the best goddamn Worcestershire sauce that has ever graced my existence. Poured that shit on top of it. Outrageous. We had to queue for it, right? This place because it's one of the sort of more famous ones in Hiroshima. But the good thing about Japan is they have even more lax, like how like the UK kind of has relatively lax, or at least England does around like drinking. Whereas like like public drinking and things, you can drink in most streets in England, but Japan even more so. Like you can just drink anywhere. Like you can get beers out of vending machines in a lot of places, and like most places you go, they clearly don't have all the licensing bullshit. Like it's easy to just sell a beer in Japan. So like we were in this queue and we were right up at 7-Eleven, and basically there's like if you think there's a lot of convenience shops or Tesco Expresses or whatever where you are in Japan, it's insane. There's three main ones: 7-Eleven, Lawson, and Family Mart. And you'll literally be like, where's the nearest shop? Oh, there it is. Like every time, you're never more than like 10 meters away from one of them. Sometimes they're across the streets from each other. And so we were opposite one of this restaurant. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll just go get some drinks. And we just kind of pretended that the queue is like a smoking area for a pub because that's kind of what it felt like, drinking these beers. That was decent. But speaking of smoking areas, actually, the other thing in Japan that's very odd to get your head around is you're not actually allowed to smoke outside. However, you're allowed to smoke in most bars and restaurants. It's kind of up to them. So you walk into a bar, you can ask for an ashtray and just light up a cigarette, which is fun to do purely because of the novelty. Because you just like that's an unthinkable act in the UK. But to step outside a bar and light up a cigarette is an unthinkable act in Japan. So it's like everything is perfectly inverted. It's really weird. Like when I came back and we were stuck at Farringdon waiting for our train back to Croydon, I just went out of the thing for some air. I was like, lit up a cigarette. I was like, wow, I could just smoke out here, just on the street. This is amazing. And then you sit inside the station, like, well, there's no smoking area in here. That's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like it becomes totally inverted. And the other thing about, sorry, go on.
That reminds me of like because I imagine like the feeling of smoking in pubs. The novelty is very good, but it kind of wears out pretty fast. I remember when me and Mark Rano were in Bratislava, we went to a basement bar called Lemmy's Bar, and literally everything on the bar was just pictures of Lemmy from fucking Motorhead. And was like, oh yeah, hell yeah, we could fucking smoke fags in here. Oh, yeah, proper. Then we light up a fag. We both light a fag, and then like we're like, Actually, it's the whole bar is really smoky. Actually, this is quite unpleasant.
I know, that's the thing. Like, you enjoy the novelty of it, and then realize how stupid it is. There's like a flip side angle to this, because like the other thing about Japan is like a pack of Lucky Strike cigarettes for the camera. I think you can see that the Japanese letters there. This costs like £2.50 in Japan. This costs like £2.50 in the shop. It's so cheap, and they're really tasty as well. But also, like, I thought, oh, like, wow, these, the cigarettes look a lot cooler because I'm used to the brown colored. I'm used to like this, right? That's what I'm used to. So you suddenly see this again, you're like, oh, that's cool. And then when I'm on my layover in Japan, suddenly I'm in a convenience store and I'm seeing a wall of cigarettes that look like this, and I'm like, what? This is the coolest fucking thing.
Wait, are those Japanese? Was it your layover in Beijing?
This is layover in Beijing. These are Chinese cigarettes. I thought the Japanese cigarettes were cool, and then I saw the Chinese ones, and I was like, Jesus Christ, these are called Alishan Magic Mirror Super Slims. And I was like, wow,
yeah, like that should be illegal, to be honest.
And then I got back and thought, now I realized that, like, I bought a brick of these in Beijing airport, partly because the artwork was so cool, and partly because the brick of 10 packs cost me £17.50. And I was like, that's £1.75 a packet. But I was like, oh my God, this, as much as you might hate this is genius. I agree with this. Yeah. This is accurate and this is correct. Because I literally was staring at the wall of Chinese cigarettes because the artwork looked fucking cool and it made me want to buy cigarettes. So, I'm I've come back a huge advocate of this, which makes a huge amount of sense. Yeah. Another thing you might not expect in Japan that I was determined to find again, Che Guevara tobacco. Fancy that. I only got one pouch because they didn't have it in the airport I was going back through. But they've got the Che Guevara tobacco. Sorry?
It's actually like Cuban sourced.
You know what? I remember Googling this like years ago when I first found it, and I don't know. But it's the Che Guevara red tobacco. I also found some anarcho-communist Goth black and red Che Guevara cigarettes, but I've smoked all of them. And I also got a Che Guevara lighter, but it got taken through Chinese security.
I also had a Che Guevara lighter. You got me at one point. I think for the Archie Japan, but it is somewhere in the ether.
That's the funny thing about different countries and lighters. Like in the UK, I've literally just had pockets full of lighters, just trying them in. If you go to India, they're like, "What lighters? No." China, no lighters. Japan, lighters are fine. Like they're all over the place with it.
But I need my soft clipper. It's a sensory thing. It's like a fidget spinner.
My emotional support clipper.
It feels nice.
I need to get a soft clipper. They do feel good. Anyway, I've not really talked.
I don't know why it's a clipper. Yeah, sorry. It's the actual event in Japan.
Okay, so yeah, we played 3 gigs in Japan, like I said, Gakiko Fest, and I think Tomoki deliberately blessed us because on the pre-show, it literally on the lineup went Anatomia, Dygora, my band, Coffins, and like if you know anything about Japanese like death metal, Anatomia and Coffins are massive, legendary Japanese bands, and we had absolutely no right playing between us. So I think Tomoki did us a favor in that night on letting us play right between Anatomia and Coffins. And then the second day, the Saturday, to be honest, was a bit sad. Like we played earlier on in the day, and so we played at like 3 or 4, and then we went for some food. That's where we had the Korean barbecue place, and then went back to see Candarivas, who were playing later. Saw them like putting their stuff on stage. Then they announced something in Japanese, and everyone was very shocked. And then they started packing their stuff down and walking off. We didn't really know what was going on. And then Paul, he plays in another band out there with BTK, Basement Torture Killings, said he went backstage to charge his phone, and there was a guy there getting chest compressions. And it turned out that I think the guitarist from an Indonesian grindcore band he played earlier had collapsed backstage, I think having a heart attack. And he was having chest compressions, and so they had to end the night. And I was outside the venue and saw a bunch of an ambulance rock up and a load of paramedics come and drag him out and give him chest compressions and put him in an ambulance. And it was later announced that he died. So that was
hell.
a bit of a random and fucked up thing to happen, and really, really tragic, really sad. I still don't know what happened. The guy was in like his 40s, and played for the Indonesian grindcore band. I feel bad, I can't remember the name of the band, but that was really unexpected. So that was a bit of a strange and sad end to the night. But it still went ahead the next day. So we did play the next day. We saw Canarivas play the next day. The venue was very near to Shinjuku Goyen Gardens, so Scarlett and I went around there, and that was really nice. Although we saw a lot of people recording TikTok dances, and it's very surreal in real life to see a bunch of people setting their phone up somewhere and then doing exactly the same set of movements. It kind of looks like a bunch of people are under like a spell. But that's just me being an angry old boomer shouting at clouds. But
well, no, it is a spell. I would recommend my book on this, but it's owned by a bunch of genocidal assholes. So
whack a link to a PDF on there that bypasses that.
Yeah, I'll put like a Google Drive link in the episode because they can come for me if they want. It won't go well for them.
Yeah. So that was the gigs. They went pretty well. Good turnout. We actually read some of found out that people reviewed us on Twitter, and some of the reviews were pretty funny. But I probably wouldn't be able to find them now. But so that was our time in Tokyo, and then the rest of it we just kind of were like, okay, holiday time. So it was just me, Mark, Lorana, and Scarlett and Arjun sort of went to Hiroshima. And I did that thing you were just talking about in Bratislava, where I saw when I was booking it, oh, you can book a smoking room instead of a non-smoking room. That's funny. I'll book that because it's like a normal hotel room, but I can smoke in it. And then we got in there and we're like, oh, this is actually really horrible. It's just really smoky and kind of dirty in here. And I did not really consider the reality of what I was doing. So I went to the desk and asked if they can move us to a non-smoking room. And they said, yeah, that's all right. We can do that. So we moved to a non-smoking room. Then I said, oh, shit, I've left my bass guitar in the original room. Can I have the key back so I can go back there and get my bass guitar? So kind of heavily embarrassed myself at this Hiroshima hotel. And then a couple of days in, got a message through Expedia saying, the hotel have tried to message you. And when I called them, they said, seems to be a problem. Your luggage is still in the room. And it turns out I'd only booked it for 2 days instead of 3. So I had to then book a third night. So I could not have. Fortunately, it was a Japanese hotel where they said, oh, okay, we'll give you another night. If that was like a French hotel, they would have just thrown all my luggage on the road by then and been like,
oh, yeah.
Fortunately, they're generally pretty polite there. So it ended up being fine. But I knew they would have rolled their eyes if they were allowed to roll their eyes. I would have rolled my eyes at myself if I had been doing that because I really got that one up. The funny thing was in Hiroshima, our first night, we go to a Mexican restaurant in Hiroshima, as you do when you're in Japan. And the funny thing about that restaurant was they served me a beer. And you know how usually you see a frozen glass and you're like, yeah, that's good. But they'd frozen it so much when they poured it, the beer turned into like a slushy, started freezing. It was actually really horrible. And it was funny because it was Asahi. And Mark works for Asahi. He's like, this isn't up to code.
Yeah.
And,
did Mark get any Did he manage to pull the Asahi card at any point?
He did. He managed to get free tickets to the Osaka World Expo, which sounds to me like my worst nightmare. So I'm glad I didn't go. But there's a funny story about that because one of the things I said at the top of this, right? Japan, the land of the rising sun, or the land of unnecessary packaging and nowhere to throw it away, right? So people say, well, in Japan, actually, they've got a very enlightened culture because they don't have public bins. They take their waste with them. They take responsibility for their waste. And I'm like, yeah, cool. But they also individually wrap bananas and literally wrap things and then wrap them in more wrapping for no reason and just give you all of this packaging and they don't even have a bin themselves. And you just like, here you go, your problem now. And you go, where do I throw this? Oh, there's literally nowhere. There's literally nowhere to throw this. I just have to find a pocket or bag or something until I go into somewhere where there's going to be a bin and I can put it away. Literally, I called it bindar. You had to have bindar. Some vending machines, there's vending machines everywhere, would have bins behind them and I'd make a mental note. So I'd be like, if I need to throw something where I'm going to walk around to that street because there's a bin behind that vending machine. But I wouldn't have a problem with the whole no bins thing if they didn't give you. We went to a hotel and they'd shrink wrap the TV remote. That is the levels of packaging upon packaging upon packaging. There'll be a thing of wipes, a sealed thing of wipes in a plastic hard package. They love packaging. They're obsessed with it. And I was looking around. The other thing about Japanese people, there's barely any hand dryers, right? We praise them for the bidets, and rightly so, right? Almost every lavatory, press a button, get a nice jet of water. You feel like a barbarian using dried paper when you come back to the UK. But then they wash the soap their hands, they wash their hands, and then they just sort of, I don't know. I was like watching Japan. What do you do? I think they just sort of do that, and they don't dry. It's really that was the thing I was trying to figure out. And what was I talking about before I went off on this tangent?
Hiroshima. Hiroshima, yeah.
So the first time we went to that Mexican restaurant, slushy beer, but the Mexican food was actually very good, right? And I wasn't sure whether to say like, quisiera burrito, por favor, or be like burrito kudasai. Because like, don't know which language I need to butcher for this order. But then afterwards we went to this bar, like a rock bar there. Which again, it was like you had to get a lift up. It looked like you're going to someone's flat, but it was a really cool little rock bar. And we're talking to the owner, and he's like, "Oh, you're in a band." We explain we're in a band, and he's like, "You should come to this place tomorrow. There's like an open mic jam thing going on." So the next day, we spent the day. We looked at the atomic bomb dome and everything. That's when we went for the okonomiyaki pancake and stuff like that. Then we went to this place called Conquest Bar via the red light district in Hiroshima, because it's in the area. And it was really funny because I saw a place called I think it's called Hand Heaven or Heaven Hand. And I was like, oh, I wonder what that place is. And then I looked it up on Google and started reading translated Japanese reviews of Heaven Hand about like the girls here are very pretty, but they do not put in much effort and stuff like that. It's really funny.
Jesus Christ.
And it gets worse actually. But then we go to this place and like there's all these we see the bar owner just playing keyboards in the front, and then we jam with these guys. I play a bit of bass, Arjun plays a bit of drums, Mark plays a bit of guitar. We're like jamming with the Japanese guys, and they started playing "No Woman, No Cry" by Bob Marley. So I started singing it, and it was a good night, right? And then we went back to the hotel room and start flicking through the porn channels that's on the hotel TV, like all of us at this point. And we're looking through it, and it's all in Japanese. There's no translation. But there's one where there's just like a woman with a traffic cone. And we're like, we want to watch Traffic Cone Lady. I want to see where this is going. So we like pay extra money to watch this porn movie about this. Like it turns out to be this whole drama about like a girl who works as like a traffic thingy, but she's got a sick boyfriend, but she's having an affair with this other guy. It was so funny because like, when eventually he goes down on her, right? They censor everything with the pixels. But they've also like put in fake sound because it sounds like he's slurping ramen the whole time, and it was just absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, I've heard about the blurring things. It's very
it's illegal to expose your genitalia in public, or unless you're in like an onsen or whatever. So,
was there an onsen? Was there an onsen trip?
So the thing is, right, with onsens, they're quite serious about tattoos. Unless you find a tattoo-friendly onsen, you cannot. Yeah. And like most of us had, apart from, I'm the only one who doesn't have any tattoos, right? I'm the only boring vanilla loser on the trip who could actually go, right? But we did have a private one at one point because we stayed in a fancy place in Kyoto. But the funny thing was, right, so we called it Traffic Cone Lady. So we're watching Traffic Cone Lady. And then the next day, we went to this island off Hiroshima, which is really nice. We've got like a boat there, and there's like deer on it, and Mark and Lona went off for a hike. It wasn't. Yeah, I think it might. It was a really nice island. It had like a big shrine, right on in the sea outside it, like in the water, which was cool. But there was like a beach there and like a nice little village thing. And then we went up the hill, and Mark and Lona were going to go for a hike. And Arjun, Scarlett, and I was like, we'll get the cable car instead because we can be bothered. So the funny thing was, Scarlett was trying to get a matcha latte, but obviously it was vegan, so couldn't have it with milk. So she tries to order one without milk, and the guy's like, yeah, I'll figure it out. Meanwhile, I'll get a beer, and I'm sitting sipping my beer. And then this guy comes out, and he's so proud of himself. And he's got a bowl of iced matcha, like shaved ice just with matcha in like a big pudding bowl. That's his like understanding of it. He's so proud. He's like, no milk, no eggs. And it's like in Japan, you can't.
It sounds delicious to me.
You can't say I don't want it. You can't. You have to be like you have to eat to be like oishi desu, oishi desu, which means like it's tasty because it's like it's their fucking whole ego on the line with this shit, right?
Yeah.
So we just had to like we tried to give it to Archie. Like, no, I'm not eating that. But it was just ice matcha. It was not particularly nice. So we just had to wolf down this bowl of ice matcha to be polite to this guy, and he was be like, "Yeah, oishi desu, arigato gozaimasu," give it back. And then we went up the hill, got to the cable car, and there was a queue that was like 10 minutes. So I was like, let's just go back to the beach. They were marking around on a big hike. We didn't even make it to the cable car, so I can't even bother to queue. But then we went for a little bit of a swim and went under the sort of like shrine and everything. And we were kind of like trendsetters because we looked back in the water and everyone was like, "Oh, I didn't know you could do that." And everyone else had got in the water as well. And then it looked like some people were stealing my bag. So I went over and it turns out they're actually bringing them in because the tide is about to wash them away. I was like, "Oh my God, thank you so much." And then so later that night, we went back to Hiroshima. It took us fucking ages to get because we couldn't figure out the public transport. And Arjun and I, we went to an arcade. There's a 5-level arcade there, and it was amazing, right? It had Mario Kart. I love doing Mario Kart when you're actually sitting in the chair and everything. And it had a taiko drumming game that I really like as well, where you play the taiko drums. But they had the best arcade I've ever seen in my fucking life. Japanese metro train simulator. It's a whole booth, immersive sound. The seat vibrates, the squeak of the rails. You can do the horn with your foot. You can drive the thing forward and back. You got to get it right, and you got to stop it at the right distance. And it's just the autist's dream. It's the absolute autist's dream. It's the greatest single arcade game I've ever seen in my life. So playing a bit train simulator. Tried to do pachinko, which was like the Japanese equivalent of Fruities, but not figure it out and just lost all my money immediately.
Very popped off.
Traditional Fruity and got very bored because Fruities are actually really boring and confusing.
Yeah.
And then Arjun and I went back to that original bar, and the guy recognized us from the night before. We're chatting to some Australians. That's us from Darwin, and they were very Australian. The guy gave us a whole bottle. Well, he gave us a bottle of Hibiki and put it on the table for us to like drink. For our performance, the whiskey for our performance.
Nice.
And I love Japanese single malts; they're very good. Big fan.
The Japanese whiskey is the only time I've ever had like blended whiskey, which is still fantastic.
It's all very light. I mean, it's all very monopolized because it's pretty much all Suntory who own the whiskey game. And like, I think the thing I find funny about Japan is they're a lot more obvious with their monopolization. Like, obviously, like Coca-Cola and PepsiCo own all these different brands, but they create like an illusion of like variety. Whereas like all the soft drinks will say either Asahi or Suntory on them, and like a lot of it is very heavily monopolized, the whole soft drink market and everything. But it's all really good as well, so you can't really complain. Like you just pick a random drink from a vending machine, and it would be like the best thing you'd ever had. Same with the single malts. I tried all them: Hakushu, Miyagikyo, Hibiki, Yoichi, Yamazaki. And funny thing was, on the way back, I was going through the airport duty free, and I was like, right, I need to get some Japanese whiskey. I want Miyagikyo because the whole thing was heaving. It was like a big queue. I just grabbed a bottle of Miyagikyo, went to the till, paid for it with a brick of Lucky Strikes, right? And I realized that the bottle of whiskey was 70 quid. I thought, that seems really expensive compared to what I was paying there. And then I'll show you the bottle, right? I was looking at it, and it's like single malt Miyagikyo, Nika whiskey. And then I look at it, and it says at the bottom, Grande non-chill filtered. And I was like, oh, it's like a special one. So I go on a UK whiskey website and say, well, how much does this cost in the UK if it cost me 70 quid here? 609 quid.
Whoa.
And if you'll notice, I've already drunk about half of it because it is bloody good. But yeah, so that was turned out to be a bit of a steal. And the brick of Lucky Strikes cost me like 20 quid for 10 packs of Lucky Strikes. So not complaining.
So you can afford the jet lag and the travel. Japan is like quite cheap when you get there.
When you get there, it's really very, very cheap.
I mean, even because we saw Candarivas at Obscene Extreme in Czechia last year, and Moki was just like, yeah, the yen's like really weak. You should all come over to Japan right now. And like
100%.
The Candarivas, like we got to link him down below because like Candarivas are a fucking sick band, and also that Taito drumming game. I know a place in London where you can probably play it.
Is it the one in Oxford Street, Oxford Circus area?
It's Las Vegas, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's where I played it first.
That.
I played it in the UK before.
Right,
The difference is in the UK, like, you have to queue for it, whereas there it's just like normal. It's like walking into like a normal, like they're used to having 5-level arcades just in like random towns. You know what I mean? Whether you have to like queue for it if you go to that place in Oxford Circus, but it is good. I would recommend it.
They have more. They just seem most places that have more like thirds. I mean, I guess if you want to compare it to the UK, like what was like the big stark differences you like understood from your trip to Japan versus the UK?
So the craziest thing they have, right, and you might not believe this because it's a bit wild, but they have this thing called they have trains that run on time. Now you might not understand what that means. What I mean by that is if the train is supposed to leave at 2:57, the train leaves at 2:57. It doesn't say delayed for another 6 minutes randomly, 8 minutes, 9 minutes, 12. No, it leaves on time pretty much all of the time. That's probably the thing that blew my mind the most. And I've already explained the inverted smoking rules. You go in for a fag, not out for a fag, right? You can smoke inside a lot of restaurants and bars. You can't smoke outside. Yeah, another thing about like it is a strange kind of nut to crack. People in Japan are very polite, but it is a different culture that's quite, you have to kind of, there's different aspects to it. It's like one thing someone told me years ago was like, if you're going for a job interview in Japan, you have to wear a specific suit. Like it's very conformist in those kinds of ways. Another thing I would say is people take their shit seriously. So if you have a little bar, you generally kind of like take it seriously. If you make a food, that's your shit. You take that shit seriously. So like I say, like a lot of bars are very small bars that just one guy owns. That's his bar. That's his spot. It's like the equivalent of if you opened up a bar in your flat, what that would be like. So it's like there's a lot of kind of small places around there. And the Shinkansen, the bullet train, is fucking amazing. It's kind of expensive, but not when you realize how far you're going, how quickly. Like I think it cost us like 150 quid to get to Hiroshima from Tokyo. And you're like, oh, that's expensive. Then you realize it's 800 kilometers, which is like 500 miles. It's like here to Inverness, and it takes 4.5 hours. And you can literally rock up 15 minutes before, buy the ticket, get on the thing, go. So that was mad. Like it's just, it kind of works, but in order for it, think about it, Japan works really well, but in order for it to work, people have to kind of do the right thing, if you know what I mean. Like everyone knows where they need to go in the right place in order for the whole thing to work. So it's kind of like very conformist in that sense, but at least the conformity has a purpose, and the purpose isn't just like horrible fascism. It's like, oh, so everything actually works well. You got to sit in the right spot, and you kind of get it because there's a lot of people crammed into a small space. Yeah, I was thinking the other place we went to was Osaka. We went there after Hiroshima, and I would have liked to see more of it. The problem is we went too hard the first night. The first night, like we found our Airbnb, which was pretty shit, to be honest. And the funny thing was there was like a little cafe / hostel next door. And we're talking to the guy. I don't know if he was English or whatever. He had kind of this weird, ambiguous international sort of accents. He was saying he volunteered there, but he also works like as a digital nomad, like employing like nurses or something in the UK online or something like that. But he did the job at the cafe in exchange for accommodation. The weird thing was later on we went to central Osaka because we were staying in like the kind of Korean district. We went, the first bar we went to, who the fuck's there? The guy from the cafe just happened to be in that same bar in Osaka. So that was weird coincidence. And it was the first of two weird coincidences because then we like ended up having a big night. Like me and Mike went to this Irish bar called Sham Rock and Roll that had pun names for their food, like Rage Against the I'm a Chicken Nugget and pretty fried for a white gyoza. It's just really funny.
It's trying.
Yeah, we went to lots of different bars. We went to this Indian restaurant that was actually really good. And then we went to the 80s Rock Bar Freak, which was this tiny little place, really hot. They were always playing like bootleg VHS videos of like Judas Priest and stuff. And obviously Mark was like, have you got any Sabbath? And he's like, yeah, and find some Sabbath. So we were in there for ages. And then me and Arjun went to a jazz bar opposite. It was really good. Best old fashioned I've ever had in there. We were enjoying the jazz vibes. Went back to 80s Rock Bar Freak. Then went to this weird goth bar where it was run by this woman he brought us all these snacks with like a skull on the table and everything, and like all the cocktails were very sweet, but it's very goth, but the music was too quiet. But that was quite cool. And then we decided that we wanted to do karaoke, and it's about 1:30 a.m. at this point. So we go to Big Echo to do karaoke, or you can drink alcohol for a certain period. And that was fine. The problem is, I don't know if you've ever done karaoke with Tamsin. No shade, just saying it's like classic rock, bit of metal, classic rock, Taylor Swift, classic rock, Deep Purple, Motley Crue, Avicii.
We can't keep this in. Like we
Yeah.
can't, so just let you know in advance.
You can't give in specific names. All right. But yeah, we were doing karaoke. What the point is, all right, hang on. Cut action. The point is, right, so we went to do karaoke at Big Echo, but it was like 1:30, and I think we had 2 hours of all you can drink. So by the end of it, it was just a sea of broken glass on the floor. Like it's just got so messy. And like we were like, we got to get out of here. So we just sort of left, you know, we'd paid for it. I'd been very militant because I paid for it and made sure everyone sent me the money, which is uncharacteristic for me. But I was like, no, I know I'll absolutely never see this money again if I don't make every single person send me the money right now. So I successfully
APMS, you know, come on, yeah.
I think we'd paid. We paid before. I think they're used to it. To be honest, I've done this before. Like last time I went to Tokyo, I was like, God damn, it must be bad. But when you speak to people, they're like, nah, Japanese salarymen are way worse. Like they ain't seen. You're nothing compared to them. Like, but yeah, we get a cab back, and the next day, like none of us make it out the Airbnb. We're all just absolutely just hung to the fuck over. So just didn't really get out at all. So we kind of missed a day in Osaka. Third day, Scarlett and I went to the aquarium. Mark and I went to the World Expo, and that's what I was going to say before about the waste. They got these ice creams, but then realized that they couldn't eat the whole thing, and there's nowhere to throw it away. So they just walk around with a wrapper full of melted ice cream all day. You know what I mean? That's kind of what you end up having to do because there's like there's no bins, and they give you all this stuff, and there's nowhere to throw it away. It becomes really annoying after a while.
I'm imagining because there's no bins in Japan, it means that they must have had there's like not many bins in London apparently because of the IRA. I'm just imagining like the Japanese have like a super IRA.
Well, every bin's full of sarin gas or something.
Yeah, I mean, you suggesting that Arm Shinrikyo are the Japanese IRA?
Not exactly.
They did try and buy
the closest corollary that I can find.
Yeah, actually, they're probably not that far. Arm Shinrikyo, listeners, if you haven't heard of Arm Shinrikyo, Google them. They were a cult based on one guy who used to pretend he could fly. They had their own anime, and they tried buying nuclear weapons from the Soviet Union as it was collapsing at one point. And then there's a big sarin attack on Tokyo. The guy who ran it, I can't remember his name, is still in prison, I think, on death row. Fucking insane story.
Surprised they ain't often yet. They're usually pretty efficient with this sort of stuff. But yeah, what were we talking about? Osaka, right? So the next day they went to the World Expo. Scarlett and I went to the aquarium, which was cool. They had 2 whale sharks, they had penguins, they had all sorts. It was
big ups.
And sorry, someone's trying to call me and I'm trying to decline it, but my phone is not good. So yeah, basically went to the aquarium. That was wicked. There's an angel fish. They have like the fins on the top and the bottom. They look really funny. And then we went to this restaurant, this tempura place. It was really good for like lunch. And there's this Vietnamese American guy sitting next to us who sort of briefly talked to us and was like, yeah, Trump, he's such an idiot. I can't go back to America because Trump's such an idiot. And I was like, yeah, it's not wrong. Yeah. And the reason this guy will become relevant later, because that was our last day in Osaka. Then we went sort of out to, I think we went out back to 80s Rock Bar Freak. And at first, actually, that was it. First, we went to Coco Ichiban, the curry place, to get some food. Then I was with Arjun and Scarlett at this point. We went to the jazz bar. Scarlett tried extremely hard to get jazz, had a drink and everything. They're playing Ryu Fukyu Early Summer, if you're familiar with that track. Which is like the perfect bait Japanese jazz tune to be playing in a Japanese jazz bar. we've got our drinks. I've got my old fashioned. She's got this what I thought was a very nice apple highball, but she did not like it, and she just did not appreciate the jazz. Could not get the jazz, and left and went to the 80s rock bar upstairs. Fair enough. And then we went and joined, and then I think that we just drank there, and then that was the end of Osaka. And then the next day we went to Kyoto, but we went to Lake Biwa just outside, and this is where we had booked quite a fancy hotel, the fanciest stay of the whole thing. And the hotel room had like a private mineral bath onsen that explained the mineral, where the water would come from, and all the different concentrations of different like minerals and things. And that was really nice. My skin has never felt better than after getting out of that mineral bath. And then we went down. We had like a meal included. It was like a 9-course tasting menu. And that was pretty special. They had this omi beef. They had all this different like sushi and stuff. That was really quite special. Nice little meal. They had some really good sake with it. So that was our kind of. And then Scarlett and I went back to our fancy hotel room, and of course sat down and watched the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, as you do.
It's a good movie.
It is good. And so that was our fancy time. And then the next day we went into Kyoto Central and stayed in our sort of regular hotel, which is also pretty good, to be fair. Although it was a king-size bed in a room that was not big enough for a king-size bed. It was like, can you not just get a slightly smaller bed, or at least make the room proportional to the size of the bed? This is the place that the shrink-wrap TV remote. And I'm like, you guys just have a packaging fetish at this point. But there's a lot of shrines in Kyoto. Like I went looking for paracetamol because I had a headache and accidentally wandered into a shrine. Like they really are everywhere. And we went, did a bit of shopping in Kyoto. Kyoto's really nice, actually. I really liked it. It was quite busy around the center. We both bought duffel bags from this. I think we bought like Czech army surplus from like army surplus shop. But it was a really cool like black duffel bag, which I've still got, which I needed because I had to take half the stuff out of my luggage and put it in.
You got split into two. Yeah.
And that was another thing I didn't mention, actually. In Shibuya in Tokyo earlier, Tower Records, 7 floors. 7-floor Tower Records. They had this whole vinyl floor, and I was in there for about 10 minutes and had already spent 100 quid. Like I'd already got six vinyl records, and I got to the point where I had to just pay and take my glasses off and walk out, so I could not identify anything else because I would have absolutely bankrupted myself and had to buy an entire new luggage.
What did you get?
I got let's pull it out. It was I gave one to Mac.
Is Archie entering his city pop phase?
No, I didn't actually. I stayed true. One of them I gave to Mac, which was a Sonny Rollins on 52nd Street Japanese edition. Jazz. Whoa. I got this Rollins Plus 4 Japanese edition. That's some classic jazz. Got Kraftwerk, Computer Love.
Come on.
I got the original American release of Yes, Big Generator, massive, right? And I got Thelonious Monk, The Genius of Modern Music, Volume 1. And I got this Japanese Sonny Stitt record. So mostly jazz. Almost all jazz, really. And I only got past the jazz section. I was like, I need to leave now. I need to leave. Right. I said, I need to get out of here. I took off my gloves. I would be here all day and be just like carrying this giant like armload of vinyl. Would not be able to get it home because my suitcase at this point was already unliftable. It was gigantic and absolutely. If I saw a set of stairs, I was fucked. I had to carry like Mark had to carry a bass guitar and a guitar shrink wrapped together in a hard case, right? Lorena had to carry both of their suitcases. I had to carry my gigantic, at this point, like 40 kg suitcase and my bass guitar. So it's like I can't add more weight to it. But that was the thing. I really learned the value of packing lightly when I was in Japan. Like, oh my God, I'm going to be such a good light packer in the future because I learned that the hard way. But in Kyoto, the thing about our hotel, right, is I've told you about Traffic Cone Lady, right? The porn in the Hiroshima hotel, right? That was all in Japanese. I don't know what I was saying, right? In Hiroshima, and this is just a regular hotel, not like a love hotel, not like a special one, regular like businessmen staying in it kind of hotel near the center. Go on the porn channels because I was like flicking through. I'm always curious. I'm always going to flick through the porn channels, right? At least 30% of the titles had the word rape in them. Literally.
Right.
Literally.
Right. Fucking hell.
Like it would be like friend drugs her friend and lets them be raped by blah blah blah. Like it was fucked. It was so fucked. I was kind of giggling at it, and then I was like, "Oh my fucking god!" Like I put it back to Japanese. I don't want to see the translation. Like it is absolutely fucked.
That's really fucked up.
It was really fucked
Jesus.
up. Yeah. I was like, and this was just a regular hotel. This was like a fucking Holiday Inn level, travel lodge level type hotel. This wasn't like a weird one. And I was like, Jesus fucking Christ.
I was just watching American Dad last time in the fucking travel lodge. Jesus fuck.
Yeah, no, it's messed up. I would like to hope it was just a bad translation or something, but it's like when it's like 30, I'm like, nah, this is fucked. This is really fucked. But
Jeff, yeah. Jesus.
Sort it out is all I'm saying. And like
Japan, sort it out.
Sort it out. You got your trains right.
No.
You got your trains right. Now sort this one out because this one's fucked up. But yeah, I mean, I think the first night we went to and the funny thing is, we met up with a couple friends. I mean, I don't know if you got a sense of the names, but Jordan, Connor, and Alex were visiting Japan at the same time as us, and they happened to be in Kyoto at the same time. So we met up with them, and we went to this Nepalese restaurant, also with this band from America that Mark had made friends with because he was playing with BTK and Yokohama and made friends with them then. I can't remember what they were called. I feel bad now.
So I think it's Livid because they were doing a tour at the same time. I think Kandariba's been posting a lot of them. Yeah, I think it might be Livid.
It might have been, yeah. And so we were sort of eating with them, and then went to this bar. It's really, this is the thing about like Japanese people. Like I saw a picture of because we went back to the hotel room before we went to the bar, and they sent us a picture of the guy pouring shots, and I honestly thought it was a woman. And then we got there and I was, oh no, it is a bloke. It's just like a really young bloke. He's like he's got this really long, straight blonde hair. And he's kind of like, kind of giggly, he's got that kind of like jovial giggliness. And we were in this bar after the meal for like hours, just drinking. And I don't know if you met Alan, but Alan was there as well. Because Alan came out as well.
Yeah.
And we were just drinking and drinking. And afterwards we were like, okay, how much do we owe? I was the one who said, right, let's go now. Because otherwise we would just been there way too late. And I can't remember how much it came out to, but it was like 30 quid each. And it was just like, if that had been in London, it would have been like 150 quid each. You know what I mean? Like we were just drinking. We drank all of
it. Alan used to drive you guys about, by the way. Like you're driving for a couple of tours on that. Yeah. That's how. Yeah.
And like literally, he got to like he ran out of Coke, so we were just having whiskey and like whatever mixer he had. And then he got to the plastic bottle.
The drink, by the way, just to clarify, the drink.
The drink, yes. And then like the plastic bottle of whiskey came out. Like we drank through all of his stuff. And the funny thing was like we eventually left, and like it turns out because we didn't go back there, but our mates did, that guy who I thought could not have been over 19 years old was 41 years old. And basically Japanese people are either sort of young in their up to their 20s, or they're like 70 plus, and there was no in between. There just isn't an in between. Like you just cannot tell their age at all. Like you'll think, oh, that guy's 19. No, he's like 57. It's just it doesn't. I don't know what their secret. Well, the secret is onsens. It's those mineral baths, man. It's definitely those mineral baths. Something they've got going on. They just do not age. They just do not age at all. It's insane. So the funny thing was, so our next night in Kyoto was our Scarlett and I's final night. So it was our final meal there, right? And we had a really good day. We went to another part of Kyoto, like a quiet part, and it was really nice. It was kind of a combination of like Greece and the Alps, I would describe it as, because it was kind of like hilly and alpine, but like very kind of hot and green. And we it's really funny because we went to rent a rowing boat to row around this river, which is one of my favorite parts of the whole trip. It was so nice. But we went up to the thing. Old Japanese men are so weird. They point at Scarlett and go, Cyndi Lauper. Which I just thought was funny. And so we were rowing around, and they had the best thing I've ever had, which was an aquatic offie. So you could row up to this boat that had beers on it and buy beers and stuff. That was just wonderful, just excellent. And then we rowed back at the end of it, and Scarlett wants to get this like street food that's like shaped like a fish. And this guy, we couldn't understand what he was saying. He was like, "Oh," so, and we realized eventually he was just pointing, going, "Oh, sexy stockings." We're just joking about that. Oh, sexy stockings. Oh yeah, but the reason I brought up the Vietnamese man in Osaka is because we bumped into him in that same spot in Kyoto, and he was like, "Oh hey," so that's two people I randomly bumped into, two totally different parts. It was very strange and coincidental. But yeah, that was really nice. Our last day in Kyoto, but then for the meal, right? For some reason, we let the others book it, right? And they booked this place, and Scarlett and Miranda were going to go to a vegan izakaya for their meal, and we were going to go to this other place. And it turns out that we got there, and it was like a kind of like you can order stuff on the thing. It's like an all-you-can-eat, all-you-can-drink thing for a certain period. So we're like, okay. They don't really speak English. They give us this laminated thing that explains in English what we're supposed to do. And it's like, you can only order like 5. You should order 4 to 5 things at once. We're like, okay. And it's a bit like spoons or whatever. You scan the QR code and you do it on your phone. We're like reading a Japanese translation. We just start ordering. So we think, okay, for some reason we have to select 5 things at once. So we're like ordering all this food and drink, and the drinks all come in. And we try and get beer, and they say, oh, that's 500 yen more. And we're like, oh, what, per beer? And they're like, no, if you pay 500 yen each, you can get unlimited beer. 500 yen is £2.50, by the way. I just want to point that out. So we're like, well, obviously, yeah, go on. We're ordering drinks. They're coming through. The food is hardly coming, and we're starving, right? There's only a bit dribs and drabs of food coming. They seem quite confused with us. And then, like, one of our mates starts ordering, like, we realize you can order chopsticks and ashtrays and shot glasses. So he just starts ordering that just to see what happens. And they bring us, like, an ashtray. Then they bring us chopsticks. And then they bring us a shot glass. He's like, you just want one shot glass? And we're like, oh, no, bring 4, because we're like, we want 4 shots. But it's just the shot glasses. We've not got anything to drink. So eventually, like, we get plum wine ordered, and we start filling up shot glasses with the plum wine and going like kampai and drinking it. Then one of our mates goes off to buy cigarettes. So while he's off, I put the lump of wasabi in his plum wine. And he comes back, he's like, I'm not going to drink that. So I kind of sip the top of it gingerly. And then our other mate just grabs it and goes kampai and just drinks it with the ball of wasabi. And then it's just like, whoa. And then grabs a beer, tries to drink it, just pours it all down himself. It's just so funny. And the funny was, like, in this whole calamity, Scarlett rings me up, and it turns out the izakaya is full. She's like, oh, it's full. We can't find anything to eat. We don't know where we are. And she's like getting worried. And she's like, can we just come to where you are? And I was like, to be honest, we're not doing much better here. You know, we're here allegedly, but the food is like hardly coming. But they come and join us, sit on the table next to us. They ask for the all-you-can-eat deal. We can only do that online. So they end up having to order food and pay for it. And all they managed to get is like salted cabbage, chips, and some cold, horrible tofu. And like people on our side keep ordering the fried cheese. They're trying to get the fried cheese delivered, but it's just not coming through. And they keep bringing us chicken wings with like cheese sauce on them. And it's only later on we realized that is the fried cheese. That's just how it translated on the menu. So they kept giving us what we'd asked for. Why are you giving us this? We're asking for this. So at this point, they're very
that'd be quite like Central European for Japan, having just a block of fried cheese.
Be very Greek. Yeah. So like at this point, you can tell they have to be very polite, right? I go for a win, I bow to them, they bow, but very begrudgingly. I'm like, okay, I can tell they're fucking pissed off with us now. We're the only people there. And then we were like, okay, let's pay up and leave. You know, we should leave now. So we pay up and everything. And then Scarlett's like, oh, let's go for a win. We're like, okay, we'll wait for you, and then we'll go. Meanwhile, I'm trying to tidy stuff up, managed to knock the ashtray over and knock the ash and fag butts everywhere. So I'm like, shit. So I start trying to pick all the fag butts up, and then I elbow a full drink over on the floor, and it goes on the floor, and I'm like, fuck. So I start trying to wipe it up. They only have wet wipes, and wet wipes trying to wipe up a liquid just makes it worse. So I kind of just gave up and picked it up, and I was like, right, let's go. I'm just going to style it out. So I'm just like, arigato gozaimasu, arigato. And I'm like, let's just get in the lift and go. And then our other mate tries to do the whole sort of like, you know, solid thing, and tries saying like, oh, sumimasen, gomen nasai, and doing like a 90-degree bow or whatever. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Gets to the lift. And our other mate just pokes his head there and goes, bye. Fuck's sake. And then get the lift out. And that was our last meal in Japan. That was our last meal in Japan. And honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. But yeah, then
honestly, the difficulty of being pub goth in Japan. You know, like I think in Japan, maybe every goth is a pub goth.
And we were still very hungry after that because very little food actually turned up. And I only realized the next morning in the hotel when I woke up, right? I got up and I suddenly thought, wait a minute. When it said 4 or 5 at a time, that means you wait for the food to be delivered, then you eat it, then you order the next 5. Not you all go on your phones and order 5 things each at the same time. And it was only the next morning when I woke up in the hotel room that I realized that and thought, oh, now it all makes sense. That's why most of the food wasn't coming, because we were just flooding them with all this food and they just didn't know what to do. And that's why they were probably so pissed.
Oh, it's like some of the sushi places in Soho, yeah, where you order it in rounds.
Yeah.
And you guys are basically ordering 5 rounds at a time.
Yeah, and wondering why it wasn't turning up. So then ordering way more food and probably ordering like 300 plates and wondering why none of it's turning up. And because it's not turning up, we order more of it.
I'm going to take you on the Japanese food tour of London so next time. Because like, there's so places just like ape. I mean, it's not ape. It's actually just Japanese food places in London. It's because the cultural exchange has been quite good between Japan and London. I mean, so katsu curry. There's a great article in Vittles, a good food magazine, a few months ago about how like, katsu curry, like the curry powder, came to Japan from basically the British Empire.
Yeah.
But, God damn! It still sounds like a fucking fantastic trip for a pub goth, though. My God,
it was amazing, and it really cheap as well, amazingly cheap. And yeah, so but that wasn't the end of the trip, because then the next morning we got the Shinkansen back to Haneda Airport. I actually did have a pizza in the airport, so that was technically my last meal in Japan. But then we flew to Beijing.
Hold up, 1 sec. Can we just pause? So we got to the flight to Beijing. Can we just pause so I can just take a piss?
I also need a piss.
Yeah.
So then we got the train from Kyoto to Haneda Airport and got the flight to Beijing. And it was a bit of a kerfuffle because they gave us some form to fill in on the flight. You know, it's always good to fill it in on the flight. You think, I'm ahead of things now. I'm not going to have to be one of those wankers with the little desk things filling it in the airport. Turns out we'd done the wrong one. And so, because we didn't have our temporary tourist visa or something. So we had to go to another queue and fill another one in, which literally asked for identical information, but it was a different form, which is a little bit frustrating. And then we got that and went through, and I was like, okay, we get through, and it's kind of tricky in Beijing, just like it'd be tricky for probably a Chinese person in the UK, because they got a whole different system of stuff, you know. They don't use card, they don't use Visa, they use WeChat and Alipay. They don't use Uber, they use Didi and all this different sort of stuff. So I'd already downloaded Didi, which is like their Uber, and had it connected to my card or whatever. So I was like, okay, I think I got this sorted. Like, I had to take my Japanese SIM that I bought out and put my UK one in and pay like £5.50 for signal for the day or whatever. I was like, all right, okay, cool. And we had kind of had a dilemma. It's like, do we go to the taxi rank and they don't understand us when we try and explain where we're going? Or do I use the Didi app and just order it on my phone from like the e-hailing point, which is a different place in the taxi rank? So I picked the latter option because I thought I've seen the app before, it sort of works. So we went down to the e-hailing bit. It was chaotic as hell, like people shouting stuff in Chinese and running. It's like, okay, I'm going to load it up, and it just would not load for some reason on my phone, wouldn't find my location. I was like, okay, not great. So went into a Family Mart, like convenience store, to get some water for us. And I started talking to the person there and said, do you know where I can get a taxi from? Because I can't get the app thingy to work. And she went, where are you trying to go? And I said, I'm trying to go to the Fuyong Yulong International Hotel, which is the one Air China had put us up in. And she goes, what? I go, the Fuyong Yulong International Hotel. And she goes, can you type it in on your phone? So I type it in obviously English characters. And then she looks at it and goes, oh, okay. And then types it in Chinese characters and then shows it to someone else. They go, Fuyong Yulong. And I was just like, okay, that's what I was saying the whole time. Okay, haven't quite got the nuances of the tones, haven't got the muscle memory back here. You know, it's a very, not to praise a work of turf, but it's Leviosa, not Leviosa moment. And so she goes, yeah, sure. And then walks out and talks to some random bloke, and he goes, yeah, 200. So like, okay, we've got a taxi. Cool, for 200 yuan. I was very lucky. My dad had been to Beijing on a business trip and had a bunch of yuan left over, and he'd just given it to me because he had no use for it. So I was like, okay, yeah, 200, fine. I was not in a position at that point to think about how much that was worth. This man's taking us to the hotel. That's fine. Turns out it's like 20 quid, which is probably like twice you'd pay for a taxi usually, but like I'd absolutely take it at that moment. Should have taken anything. I would have taken like treble that. So we start walking to the, it takes my suitcase. I start taking some of Scarlett's stuff. And we start walking along through all these taxis and everything. And then we walk past the taxis and it's just like a BMW. And I'm like, okay. And we put our stuff in his car and he starts driving and he's just looking at his phone. And I realize this is not a taxi driver. This is just a bloke who's agreed to drive us to the hotel for 200 yuan. And I showed it. I finally managed to get the address through like the emails and stuff, whatever. And I showed it. Oh, all right, that's right. And I think he might have been heading somewhere where the hotel used to be. So I'm glad I showed that to him. But he drove us there, dropped our bags off, and took the 200 yuan. So it might have not been a taxi driver. It might have just been some Chinese bloke. Fair play to the guy. He drove us to the hotel.
What's an Uber but that with like an app with middleman? You know?
Yeah, it was an Uber but without the app, or a Didi as they call it. And we got there and we said to them, they were like, "Oh, you've actually got 2 rooms." I'm like, "We just need 1 room." It's like, "Okay, 1 room with a single bed." We're like, 2 single beds. We're like, "No, we want 1 room with 1 big double bed." And they're like, "Okay, 1 room, 1 big bed." We're like, yeah. And I've heard this from people before, is you never want to take the first room they give you. You want to argue with them a bit because they always want to palm the shittest rooms off first. We got to our room and this thing was the royal suite. This thing was huge. This massive room that stretched around, this huge bathroom. It's funny because it had this like thin, long table and chairs around it. It was like, well, who are we expecting? Like, so we're like, oh wow. We asked them at the desk, like, where get food. They said the restaurant's closed now, but there's like a whole restaurant district around the corner. We're like, okay, cool. But also, like, the problem in Scarlett's vegetarian, and I've seen vegetarians go through this every time you go to Japan. You go, what's vegetarian Japanese? Oh, vegetarian. Well, that's easy. Try saying it to a Japanese person. You go, vegetarian. They go, what? You go, vegetarian. They go, what? And you go, no meat. And they go, what? Like, it just does not register. They do not. They might know what the word is. They don't understand the concept. It's not a concept. Like, very few people in Japan are vegetarian. They don't get it. It's not a thing there, even if you know what the word is. So I was worried it'd be the same in China. Like, we can't, like, we're way too tired to try and explain what vegetarian is to a Chinese person, right? So we end up just going to the convenience store opposite. And that's when I first witnessed the wall of beautiful art known as Chinese cigarettes. I was just staring like, wow, this is so cool. Oh, it's so genius that they've decided to just make all of our shit brown and horrible, because like I could stare at this all night. They had Gengar branded instant noodles, which I thought was funny. But we just got some food. I got some ham and some bread and some honey mustard. I was like, great, I make sandwiches out of this. And that was that. Basically, the funny thing was, we got back to the hotel room. I was like, I want to go smoke one of these cigarettes, but we only had like 1 key card, and when you take it out, it turns the lights off. So I was like, okay, tried the old credit card trick, didn't work. So I was like, okay, I'll just go down and hopefully there'll be a person at the desk that can beat me back up with the lift, because I want to go down and try one of these Chinese cigarettes, right? So I go down, and we're on 10th floor, go down the lift, walk out, smoke the cigarette next to the ashtray, finish smoking, and thinking, I don't know what will I get in trouble for. I could see people had smoked in the room and like stubbed their fags out in places, like. So I was like, okay, but I was like, I'll play by the rules. I don't want to have a Chinese gulag on my way home, right? So I smoked the cigarette, and then I asked them to buzz me back up like a robot comes out the lift. That was something I was like, what? Way too tired to comprehend this. Buzzes me back up. I go up the lift. Get out.
Oh no! Hold on. So what is the robot doing? Sorry, you can't just say there's a robot come out the lift.
A Hoover robot or something. I also saw some in the Japanese.
Like a Roomba.
I think it's like a Roomba with a bit on top of it. Basically, I think that's basically what it is. But it's still, you don't see that in the UK. You're not confronted by these sort of robots coming out of lifts. You don't expect it. So she buzzes me out. I go to the 10th floor. The door's open. What do you think the first thing I see is right there in the corridor? Chinese bloke just smoking a cigarette right there next to the lift and just stuffing it out on the bin. And I was like, they just do not give a fuck here. And that's when I started to form my theory that, based on my extremely tiny amount of experience with China, Japanese people and Chinese people are the perfect opposites of each other. Like when you grow up in the West, you don't know anything about them. You think, oh, China, are they sort of the same? It's hard to tell them apart. You go there, right? No, they could not be more different at all. Like Japanese people are like, right, how are we going to figure this out? We've got loads of people. How are we going to fit everyone in? Right, everyone needs to follow these rules. We'll design it this way. We'll really think it through. And everyone, if you go that way and queue up that way and wait your turn and move that way, then it can all work really efficiently. And the Chinese people go, let's just build loads of shit, just massive, just loads of shit. Just keep building it, make huge everything, and just get your fucking elbows and get it done. Because they don't give a flying fuck. Like, they really don't give a fuck. Like, they're just like, yeah, fucking smoking a cigarette. Yeah, I'll barge into you, barge into me. I don't give a shit. Like, we went to the breakfast buffet the next day, and like, some people will be like, take the food with the prongs and put it on the plate. And then you see, like, I remember seeing the driver of the shuttle bus and the sort of, just walk up, just sort of look at some food and just go like, just grab it with his hand and sort of start eating something. Just be like, I'll have some of that as well. Like, they just do not give a single fuck. But they also don't give it the other way. Like, they're not bothered by stuff, and they just don't give a fuck either way. And whereas the Japanese, they give a lot of fucks. It needs to be in this order. Needs to happen like that. You can't throw it away. Like in China, there'd be a million bins, or you could just sort of put it on the floor if you want. In Japan, it's like, no, you can't put it in a bin. It must be cleaned up. It must be this way. So they really are. Take it with a boulder of salt, because it's based on me going to an airport and a hotel and a convenience shop in one night. But I was stricken by the absolute opposites. And quite frankly, I like both. I've got time for both of them. They're both at least trying to solve something that in Britain we're just like, well, it's just shit, isn't it? It just doesn't work, doesn't it? Whatever, In Japan, they're like, no, if you go this way and go that way and put this there, then it works. Chinese are like, spill loads of fucking shit, just loads of it, and then it will be fine. And kind of both of them kind of work in their own ways.
England's like, we will not build anything. We won't build anything, especially if it works.
If we build something, it will be on PFI, and it will be made of expanded concrete that will collapse in 15 years.
Well, the Japanese also have that rapid aerated concrete, the rat concrete.
Do they have it?
Well, they have it, but they use it to stimulate the construction industry. So, okay, we know it's only last 30 years. So this means that in 30 years, will be loads of jobs opening up for construction. Whereas in Britain, we use rapid creeping aerated concrete to be a quick fix. And then when it comes to replace it, we're like, well, no, we're not spending money on that.
Isn't it? Still there. What's the problem?
Yeah, so
that's the thing. Like, the Japanese are going to rebuild it in 30 years anyway. They're going to rebuild it in 15 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because Britain doesn't really do long-term planning, because most governments are just like mostly doing it basically day by day. So like, okay, what's the paper saying about us today? What's the paper saying about us the next day? What's the paper saying about us today? So okay, so how can we not piss off the various magazines and newspapers that constitute the people that talk about us, who we give a shit about? Like the people at the Spectator Garden Party, the people we went to school with, the people we went to university with.
I can give a great example of this.
Yeah.
I saw a bridge. I can't remember what it was. I can't remember if it was Hiroshima or Kyoto. I think it might be in Hiroshima. And they had a bridge and they had a road on it. And they had the whole part of the bridge ready for them to build another road when they would need it. Well, they hadn't built that bit of it yet. They had the foundation in place. So when they built the bridge, they built it to take two roads, only built one road. They're like, right, we've got that ready for when it expands and we'll need another road.
Well, can I just say to you that having any capacity for extra infrastructure is unserious. It's communist, and I don't think the people in the papers would let me doing it. So I think it's not sensible. It should be done. Rupert, Daddy, Rupert, Daddy, Sir, Mrs. Sir, Daddy, Rupert. Look. Please don't say anything bad about me in the papers, because I'm very sensible. You said that yourself, and so we just have to establish the only Fourth Reich with the trains that run on time. So that's part of my vision for Britain for working families. And if you don't work, you can kill yourself.
And on that note,
it's hard not to do a Keir Starmer impression that's just Alan Partridge, because they have a very similar voice.
Yeah, and these days quite similar views, really. But
look, Rupert Murdoch. Sorry, these are sex people then.
But I will say that is one thing about Japan. Like, I don't know if I could ever live in Japan, partly because like they, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this podcast, but I kind of like weed, and they're kind of strict about it. Although I think if I lived there, you figure it out. Like, there was a guy at one of our shows who was smoking weed, and he like had one of those weed pens thingies, the Benjamins, as people call them, the Benjamin Franklins. I don't really smoke them usually because I have access to the real thing and I don't trust dealers to like not put spice in it, whatever. But I was like, oh yeah, I've got a high chance or whatever. I was just like absolutely huffing on this thing, forgetting how strong they usually are. Just huffing the shit out of like 10-minute huffs on it. I was like, yeah, cheers, give it back to him. Sitting in the Uber on the way back, and they have the most unbelievable Ubers. I'm talking separate seats that are reclinable. Unbelievable. But I'm sitting in the front seat and like I felt like a spaceship. I thought it was taken off. But then we went to a kebabi and it was again fantastic kebab, absolutely amazing. And
what's a Japanese? Wait, hold up. Final segment. What is a Japanese kebab like? Because
it's funny because you can get like a kebab in like a bento box with rice if you want. You see quite a lot of Japanese people going for that because obviously that's like their equivalent of the adaptations to our, British adaptations of food.
I prefer the one with rice, to be honest.
One thing I'd say is a lot of lettuce, and I like lettuce, but for a lot of people, it's a bit too much lettuce. But the taste and texture, amazing, and they're very quick with it, and it's very cheap. I'd say very good. Very impressed by the Japanese kebab, quite honestly.
All right, so Croydon Kebab Centre could learn something from our Japanese.
You mentioned Croydon Kebab Centre now, and now I might have to immediately after this be making a certain order.
Before Croydon Kebab Centre closes, we should probably round off. We've got lots of cuts, 1 hour 46, but it'll be about an hour 20 we get down to it. Any final things before we sign off? Obviously, we're going to put the new Dygora stuff in the promo. I'll put my article in there as well.
And instructable to tack on the end here. You've seen how to make your own beer if you've been following us. If you follow us further, I'm going to tack on at the end of this one how to distill your own spirits.
We're moonshining, folks. It's the economy. It's not our
And
fault.
don't forget that spirits are a key asset. I mean, the first thing that Brits tried to tax the Americans on was whiskey, of course, a whiskey rebellion. That's because whiskey is inherently a good store of value because it's everyone likes to get pissed. You can store a lot of getting pissed in a small area. So if you learn how to make spirits, you can stockpile spirits. Better than fucking gold. What's anyone going to do with shiny metal?
Conductors, but not really. Anyway,
folks, you're working
cheers
in
for listening.
Electronics place, yeah.
Cheers for listening to this latest of Pub Goth transmissions. This has been the Pub, and we're the Goths. So we'll catch you later.
Hello and welcome to Pub Goth Transmissions Instructable. If you tuned in to the last Instructable, it was a bit of a banger, if I can say so myself, how to make a beer. And I hope you took notes, studied that, and looked at where you can get some brewing equipment. But you may have remembered I had this second fermenter, and I added a sugar solution to it. And I said that this should get to about 12%. So it would be a bit like a Belgian quad, although I used whiskey yeast as opposed to the Belgian yeast I used for the beer. Now, this is technically what we call a wash, because I'm not intending to drink this. If I was going to drink it, it'd be a beer. But I'm intending to distill this, which makes it a wash. Now, what I want to do is basically boil this liquid up so that the alcohol evaporates, and I collect the alcohol, leave the water behind, and then I have a much stronger alcohol. Rather than it being 12%, it'll usually be around 60-something%. Now, the volume, according to this line on the fermenter, is 5 litres. And I believe it's about 12%. I forgot to take the original gravity, so I can't actually measure the alcohol percentage. So, like always, it's probably going to have to be a bit of a guess. But I'm going to show you how you can distill this relatively easily. It's easier than brewing anyway. This is my distilling equipment. I actually didn't buy this. I was given it, but by somebody who wasn't using it. But this is the most basic equipment you can buy. Inside here, you basically can undo that, take this off. This is your condenser. And the idea of this is that you're going to basically pump cold water in there and then have it flow out there. And you want to constantly pump in cold water. You can either connect it to a tap, which is a slightly more wasteful way of doing it, or you can get a pump to recirculate water and put like ice in it, which is what I try to do. Sometimes I don't have enough ice, so I just have to do it the wasteful way and use a lot of water. But I think my water bill is flat anyway, so fuck them, I might as well use shitloads. These are the connecty bits. This is something called a thumper cable. Thumper keg. I don't really understand what it's for. and I don't use it. You don't have to use it, and I don't because I don't really get it. So I'm just going to leave the thumper keg out for now. What I tend to use the thumper keg actually for is like a stand to put the condenser on top of. So it is useful for something. So I filled this up with some plain tap water, and I just want to premise this by saying this is not necessarily how you're supposed to do it. This is just how I do it. So have that as a disclaimer. So I'm going to turn the burner on under this, and just to expedite, and I'm going to put all this together. And the reason I'm running water is basically to clean it. I'm going to steam clean this by just running steam through it. During this phase, once the steam's run through and any kind of shits come out, I usually collect the distilled water because it's useful to dilute your final spirit. Because like when you make a spirit, it'll come out at what's called cask strength, which is like 65% or whatever, unless you want to distill it into like a super strong alcohol. But you generally want it at like 45 or 40 or 50 maybe if you want it stronger. So you want to take some distilled water. I've already got distilled water up there, so I don't need to make any more at the moment. I just need to clean it. So I've attached this, you can see, and I've got like silicone here and silicone here to create a seal. Like, again, I kind of just figured this out by figuring out how it all fits together, and trial and error. But the good thing about doing this first step with just the water is if you did this with the alcohol and there was a leak, all the alcohol fumes would escape. So it's good. This is good for testing your setup. Like, is it sealed, or if steam's leaking out, you got a problem to address before you actually put the real deal in there. You get me? Right, you see, there's on this one. There's this blue cap, and you just unscrew that, and you check in the end that there should be. See that there's like a silicone bit that falls out if you're not careful, and if it falls out, the metal on metal's not going to form a seal, and it's going to leak. So I'm going to screw that onto there and try and make this thing a bit less awkward. Right, I've made it sort of make a bit more sense. And I think the last bit, and I don't know if I'm doing this right. It seems wrong, but I'm just sort of used to doing it. There's this extra copper pipe. When you use this, it drips like down there because it's like just not enough of an end. So I put this on it, this plastic thing. It doesn't even fit snugly. And then I put this. Okay, it's not again. Let me just put that in there, right? And then stick that on there. And what I do is I just lift this over, put that back so that it's over here. I just need to push that back a little bit, actually. I might just turn the whole thing. But yeah, I basically get it set up. Most of it comes out of here and a little bit of it drips off here. So I just put an extra little jar to collect the drippage from here. Again, what you could do instead of me is like read fucking instruction manuals and shit if you're a fucking nerd. But if you're like me, you just bodge it together and just deal with the shit that comes out of that. Right, so now we're fully set up for the cleaning run, the water, just plain tap water. It's going to heat up in here. This hot steam's going to come. It's going to clean all this shit that might be in the pipes, clean everything out of here, and it's going to drip out. And I'm probably just going to let it drip along with the steam coming up until it gets to like 250 or 150 or when I get bored. And then what I'll do is I'll dump out the water, clean out the crystallized lime scale or whatever, the white shit that'll be at the bottom, and I'm gonna attach the condensing gear, which I'll show you in a bit, and put the actual wash in there, and we'll start distilling. And there's usually, when you see like triple distilled, for like I just double distill because I'm not made of time. So I do usually a single stripping run, which is where all you're doing is trying to basically like double the ABV, like leave about half the volume there and collect about half the volume. And that way you've collected all the alcohol and a bit of water. And the next time it distills, every time you distill it, the more alcohol percentages, the more cleanly it will distill. Because all the different fractions are going to be mixed in with each other. Because if you think about it, like water and alcohol, they hydrogen bond together. So the water's like grabbing the alcohol like crabs in a bucket and trying to pull it down while it's escaping. And so then the alcohol brings some water with it. But then as the alcohol to water ratio increases, you get a much cleaner distillation of just the alcohol coming first, followed by the water. So you want to do, if you try and distill it, I've done it before. I didn't know this until the first time. I just did it once, but I've since learned the first time you just want to do your stripping run, reduce volume. The second distillation will run cleaner, and the third cleaner than that. But I'm just going to do 2. I may have to do 2 stripping runs. The reason being, if I fill the wash all the way up to the top, when it boils, it'll do something called puking, which means all the froth will just start spitting out of the end here, and you do not want that. So I might actually have to do 2 stripping runs, just because the volume, there's quite a lot of volume there. I think this might be a 5-litre vessel. If this is, I don't actually know what the volume of this is. I assume it's 5. If it's 10, we're laughing. But if it is a 5-litre vessel, and I've got exactly 5 litres, I'm probably going to need to split that into 2. If that's the case, I'll probably do the 2 stripping runs tonight and then do the actual distillation where I collect the cuts, which I'll show you what that means. I'll probably do that a second night. But, you know, for you, the video will just cut to the next, like, you know, just jump forward in time. Lucky old you. Steam ahoy. Steam's coming out. Still smells a little bit of, like, you'll recognise once you distill alcohol, the smell of, like, the fusel alcohols. It kind of smells a bit musty, a bit funky. So I'm just going to let this run for a while, probably until this fills up. Just started watching Mad Men, so I'm just going to enjoy a bit of that while this is going on. And I might also turn the oven on so I can eat some food. My little setup for cooling this down, I've turned the heat off now. I'm going to let it cool down, unscrew it, remove the water. But meanwhile, my little setup is, this is like a fish tank pump, and I stick this thing on it, which is an adapter thing that allows you, it's actually for being able to plug the hose into the, attach it to there, which I use for a lot of different things. In this case, I'm going to fix it here, and then I'm going to attach this piece of tubing awkwardly by kind of sort of getting it there. And then once that's there, right, so that's on, and then I want to make it so it doesn't have any kinks in it, which is also kind of irritating. And I'm going to stick that in here, and the water is then going to flow into here, and then I'm going to attach an out pipe back into there, and then the water is going to circulate. This I'm going to fill up with water and then add ice to it to keep it cold, because what's going to happen is it's absorbing via here all the heat away from here to keep it cold, so the water will slowly warm up, it'll become like a bath, and it'll become hot. So you want to add ice to it to keep it cold, and that will keep it condensing, because you don't want this to get hot or your alcohol is going to evaporate away, and you want to collect it. You want to heat it up and then cool it down and collect it. That's the whole concept of distillation. So I put it in, and it seems this must be a 10-litre vessel, because that's about exactly halfway, which is perfect, because if it was any higher there'd be the risk of puking. So I'm going to put the lid back on, I'm going to run it all again, and I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to collect the liquid in a larger vessel. Right, now I've filled this up with tap water, and I've turned on the pump. I might add a bit more water to it, but currently this is filling up. It's squirting out the side there. The reason that it's not fully open is because it's very difficult to calibrate this. If too much water flows in and not enough out, it will overflow over the top, and you want to avoid that, so you need to kind of calibrate it carefully. Bit of a faff, but once you get it set, it's usually all good. So now you can see it's getting towards the top here, getting towards that, the water levels just creeping up. And then we should see pretty soon, any minute now. Any minute now. Any minute now. There we go. There it is. Big up. So the water's now circulating, which is good. I'll add ice to this to bring the temperature down as and when I need to. So now I've turned on the burner, and this time I've hooked this up. It's a bit of a bodge job, but I've hooked this up. It's going down through this pipe into this big kilner jar, and I'm going to collect, I didn't think this through actually, I've got 5 litres and I want to collect about half of it, which is actually more volume than this jar. So I'm going to measure the volume as I collect it. I'm probably going to need to get a second jar on the go as well. And now you can see the liquid has started coming out, but it's not completely clear. It's kind of a cloudy liquid. That's not good. I think that means that it might be puking, and therefore I might need to begin this process again. At least turn it the hell down. Since this is just a stripping run, this might not really matter. I might just leave it to play out anyway. But it's not ideal that it's coming out like this. It likely means there's a bit of puking going on. It's a bit annoying. I think what's happening is there was a little bit of puking initially, so a little bit of stuff frothed out the front, but I've turned the heat down, and now it's just clear liquid coming. So I'm going to lift this up, put it back here. I'm not bothered about the fact that it's a bit contaminated, because I'm going to... Oh, fuck. That's alcoholic, because I've got a tiny cut on my thumb, and that burns like a cunt. Right. Basically, I'm not bothered that it didn't come out clean, because I'm going to distill this a second time anyway. I'm just trying to reduce volume here. So I had 5 litres. I want to get down to, like, I don't know, 2.5 litres-ish. Basically, just make sure I capture all the alcohol. And then the second distillation will happen much cleaner, and I won't get shit like this happening. And the second time, I'll take it in cuts rather than collecting one vessel. You want to collect it in small amounts, and you choose by smell what you want to include, what you want to get. What you want to get rid of. We're still filling up at the moment, and when I reach a certain point, what I'm going to do is probably pour this into a large measuring jug so I can see how much volume it is. And then pour it into, probably get another one of these jars out, because it's probably going to be more than one of these jars that I want to collect. I want to collect roughly between 2 and 2.5 litres. That way I'll be satisfied I've collected all of the alcohol, and I would have greatly reduced the volume, so the second fermentation will be much cleaner. Definitely won't have any fucking cloudy shit going on in there. Meanwhile, if you're going to be proper, you get a thermometer out. But even though I've got the thing, you don't really need that. I'm touching this, and it's not warm, but it's not as cold as it was. You need to monitor this, because if this starts warming up, and it all starts warming up, your alcohol is going to start to evaporate. It's not going to condense. You're going to start losing it. So I might choose to add some ice to this now to cool it down. So I'll just grab a bit of ice. More than that, I'm going to put hard to do with one hand. I'm going to grab a load of ice, and I'm going to chuck it in here to keep this water cool. Make sure all of this is condensing, and I'm not losing anything to evaporation. So there we go. I added a whole bunch of ice. That's going to bring the temperature of this back down again. You know, if you run out of ice, you've got nothing to do. What you can do is actually just drain the water and refill it again. Not the most efficient use of water, but, you know, I'm pretty sure I pay a fixed tariff for my water anyway. Right, so almost a litre we've got here, 800 ml. So I'll probably continue to collect until I've got it up to over a litre. So, oh god, that's not focused. Not focused at all. There we go. So we've got like 170 mil. Sorry, 1,700 mil, 1.7 litres. Quick maths, that's like 43%-ish. 30, somewhere between 30 and 40% or something. So we want to basically do, and it's not supposed to be cloudy, it's supposed to be clear, but as I know, it puked a little bit, which messed it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this in these 2 jars here. And not tonight, because it's getting late and I've got work tomorrow, but probably tomorrow I'm going to distill it the second time, but the second time I'm going to take the cuts, and that'll be our final spirit. Okay, so in outer stage we've got the result of our stripping run. We've got, I think, just under 1.8 litres, I think, or 2-ish litres. Should be just over 30%, this alcohol. So we're going to distill it down now, and the second time we're going to take our cuts, which means we're going to basically take a bunch of small vessels, glasses, jars, whatever, and basically take about 150 ml at a time. Well, I haven't figured out how much I want to do, but about 150 ml at a time. So you're separating it out, and that way you can, by smell, figure out what's the shit you want to keep and what's the shit you want to throw away. So we're doing the cleaning at the moment. The steam's coming out. Got it on the bigger burner so that you know, we get a lot of hot steam, blasting and whatever shit's in there, clearing it all out so that when our alcohol runs through, it will be running through a nice clean set of tubes and shit. I've just realised I've managed to get this piece of tubing to stretch over here. This greatly improves not having that awkward copper bit I had before and the sort of loose thing. So this is better. It shouldn't drip down here anymore. There you go. Play around and experiment with shit. Always be improving cumulatively. Right, there we go. The liquid's in here. So we'll fasten this up and heat it up, and we need to get this going so that we don't use any fumes before the condenser's cool. Alright, so that's pretty much filled up. Our water's now circulating. This is now full, straining back down into here. I can turn off. I've turned the burner on, but I've not put it on full, I've just put it sort of on low. I'm going to be doing this patiently. This is wrong. I need to put the small one here. My aim here is to end up with a litre after I've taken the cuts, because I'm going to need to get rid of some of the stuff that I've collected. So I've labelled them 1 through 10 here. So we've got the first row and the second row. So I'm going to take number 1. I'm going to pop it here next to this. And when this little guy fills up to 150, oh no, I said 125, didn't I? So quarter of a litre mark. I'm going to pour it into here, and then I'm going to keep collecting, and then I'll get number 2. And what you want to do eventually is lay them all out next to each other and figure out where I'm going to need to get rid of one. I just should specify that, because this is going to have, the first thing that's going to come out is methanol. That, you know, when people say a homebrew isn't that going to make you go blind, it's going to make you go blind, that's the shit that comes out here. As long as you get rid of that shit, you're all good. You're all Gucci. And everyone can shut the fuck up and stop saying that annoying thing over and over again. Here we go. Look at this. So, it's easy to forget what you're doing. If you're like me, anyway, it's easy to forget what you're doing and suddenly you've gone past the mark. So, got to watch it carefully. I might take this one a bit early, just because I know I'm going to chuck it all away. Although, I don't know. There's always a bit of a question with the 4 shots, because if I say, oh, I'm going to cut this off early because I don't want to throw away too much of the good stuff, then I might end up ending up with methanol in my second one. So this was a bit of a conundrum. I'm going to stay the course. I'm going to go for 125 mil, and then I will transfer to the next one. Another good thing about this first one is, like, if the steam didn't clean anything out the first time, boiling alcohol will definitely do it the second time, because, you know, it will melt all the oils or whatever that might be in there as well. So kind of use the 4 shots coming out as a way of cleaning the equipment as well. Alright, so we've pretty much come up to a quarter of a litre. So now, why am I trying to do this while filming at the same time? Only because I love you guys so much at Pub Goth Transmission. Oh, look at that. Look at it. The techers. Right, then we can pour this one into here. Alright. If you're wondering the noise in the background, I'm watching a documentary about Henry Ford that I've seen before. I'm just a weird autistic freak who likes watching shit he's seen before that he fundamentally disagrees with. I like watching liberal propaganda for some reason. So that's number 1. This is our 4 shots and we're going to throw it away, but I'll keep it around for now. Right, if we give this a whifter, let's give it a whifter. I don't want to go like on this, right? You know, this isn't a lovely fat line of Chang, okay? This is, I'm going to waft it. During the spring and summer of 1950, oh, and you can smell immediately. That's some potent juju. That smells like paint thinner, right? So that's the, you don't want that. When people say homebrew makes you blind, that's the bit that makes you blind. Do not drink that. And if you do drink methanol, you know what you're supposed to drink immediately? Ethanol. I'm not making that shit up. Now we've got number 2 next to him. We're filling up nicely. We're in motion now. Look at that. Alrighty, so originally I was going to collect 10, but when I've got to number 8, if you look, you can see there's like, if I swirl that, there's like shit in there. Like bits of shit, and it's kind of cloudy. It's not coming out very well on film, but this is kind of cloudy, whereas the one before it, if you look at number 7 is completely clear. This means this contains some of the fusel oils. That means this is what we call the tail. So, if we take it from the front, you've got the 4 shots, the methanol, you get rid of that. In hindsight, probably too much volume there. There's probably quite a lot of ethanol I'm going to have to chuck away that goes with that. Then you get the heads, right? And then you get what's called the hearts, and then you get the tails. So your 4 shots is methanol, your heads has like a mixture of alcohol and aldehydes, And then your heart is just the pure ethyl alcohol, which is the drinkable alcohol. And then the tails is when you start getting fusel alcohols and fusel oils. And they smell, if I give this a Michael... The reason I can put my nose in this one is because I know it's weaker. And because I can't waft it on camera, really. But this smells skunky. It's like, ugh. You know? So, you know you've gotten to that area. Whereas, if I take jar number 3 here, right? Which I'm going to have to do it from a distance. I'm going to just... There's a very clean, sweet smell. I know this is in the hearts. I take number 2, this one. I'm getting that sweet sniff, but I'm getting a little bit of like a sort of sweet nail polishy smell. Just to be honest, it's quite pleasant. I think I'm only going to get rid of number 1, and I'm going to keep 2, and I'm just going to figure out at what point from, you know, 3's good, but 4, 5, 6, 7, obviously 8's out, and 1's out. Right, we'll get rid of them. 10 never got filled up. Right, what did 9? Oh, 9's here. Yeah, we don't care about 9. Right, so we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I've got to decide, and I'm going to do it by smell, where I'm going to cut off. You know, where I'm going to make those cuts. I think I'm going to include 2, even though it's going to have some of the heads in it, more headsy stuff, i.e. more kind of aldehyde, nail polishy sort of smells, but it still smells quite clean to me. I think a lot of the heads are actually in number 1 along with the methanol. I don't know if I'll keep 7 because at this point it's a bit more dilute. There might be some funkier smells in there, but I'm going to give it a proper sniff. 6 might get included. Anyway, let's commence. Right, so number 1 I'm going to get rid of. In hindsight, probably losing quite a lot of alcohol in there. I should have taken smaller cuts, but you know, you only know at the end. If I really gave a shit, I'd redistill. Number 8 is the tails. That's going to go. And I actually think that 2 through 7 is all good. So I'm going to mix all of these back together, and we've fucking done it. So if I've got 6 jars, basically 2 through 7, that means, and they're 125ml, that means I should have about 750ml, which is, you know, basically a bottle, right? Or it'd be 70ml, not 70 centiliters, 700ml. Sorry, what am I saying? I can't get my fucking denominations of units right. But you know, you get a 700ml bottle of spirit in the shop. This is 750, so a bit more, but it's like cask strength. This is probably like this. What I've basically put together is basically Ray and Nephew. I basically showed you how to make a bottle of Ray and Neff. That's what this is. Actually, technically it's not, because Ray and Neff would be made from sugarcane, whereas we made this from a beer. So I don't know exactly what you'd call this, but here you have it, right? You got 750ml of about 65% moonshine. And don't worry, I will give it a go for the lads. Right, so let's just take a little... Let's not go crazy now. I've got work tomorrow after all. Give that a little. Smells nice. All right. Cheers. I can confirm that is alcohol. That's actually nice. The burn is slow. That's genuinely a tasty spirit. I could actually sip that. But you don't have to leave it as a base spirit. I've got plans for this one. You can, you know, put all sorts. You can spice it up. You can put spices in it. You can put dried fruit in it. I've made some stuff with dried bananas, dried dates, put Werther's Originals in there. And if you want to make whiskey, I literally show you how you can make whiskey from this, right? This is a base spirit. So if this was a whiskey distillery, this would be what comes out of the still, right? It always comes clear out of the still. If you wonder where the colour comes from, if you wonder where the colour of dark rum, this is like white rum. If you want to know how you get dark rum, it's because they stick it in a cask, right? A wooden cask. And that gives it colour, and it absorbs the flavour of the wood. And you're thinking, yeah, but where am I going to get a cask? You don't bloody need one, mate. Right, this is some... I cut down a small branch from an oak tree. When I say small, right, in Somerset, where my parents live, you blowtorch the outside of the wood, and you stick it in the oven. You wrap it in foil and you stick it in the oven for 3 hours, and depending on the temperature, it imparts a flavour. If I take these twigs, and I can tell you, right, if I took these twigs and drop them in there, it's not what I plan on doing with this. Not only would they absorb the flavour of the wood, but they would turn completely amber, and this moonshine would become whiskey. That's literally how you can do it at home. Right, and you might be thinking, that's bollocks. There's no way sticking some toasted twigs in some moonshine turns it into whiskey. What do you fucking call that then? What do you fucking call that then? Because I call that Waft Whiskey Mark 1. Right? Shouts to my brothers on getting me this sick fucking decanter. And I refused to put any alcohol in it that was not made by myself. That's the colour. That was clear, just like what I've just showed you. This is the colour it's taken on. That is how whiskey's made. That's how you do it. And this is a bit of a tangent, but I'm being deadly serious when I say whiskey is an asset, right? Whiskey was one of the first things that was proposed to be taxed in the United States of America, right? It caused a fucking rebellion, right? Look up the Whiskey Rebellion. Because whiskey, very valuable, and it only, as it ages, it appreciates in value. It's a store of a lot of stuff. Like, you need a small amount of whiskey is worth a lot of money. So, like, forget fucking Bitcoin, forget fucking gold or any of that shit. If you're worried about shit going tits up, and if you listen to Pub Goth Transmission and you believe a word me or Adam are fucking saying, then you should be a little bit afraid of that. Or if you just, like, look out of your window for a second. What am I going to do about it? Well, whiskey is an asset. That's all I'm saying. So, you know, get brewing, get distilling, master it, you know, get a love of the craft, you know, de-alienate labour, reunify labour, enjoy the pleasure of unalienated production, and prepare.